up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and what if I told you that our government literally has a plan to block out the sun? What if I told you that our government, or more specifically, the Biden administration, has devised a plan to literally block sunlight from reaching Earth's surface? You would probably think that I was going loco, that I was crazy. You would probably think that this is just another one of those whacked out conspiracy theories that you see online. But what if I told you that all of this information could be found right on the White House website? What if I told you that this whacked out conspiracy literally comes from the White House website? Would you still view it as a conspiracy, or would you take it seriously? Because right on the White House website, I will post the link in the pinned comments below. There is a report that is over 40 pages long, a report about SRM. Now, what is SRM, you ask? SRM stands for Solar Radiation Modification. Basically, there's different things that you can do with SRM, but one of the main things they plan on doing is releasing substances in our atmosphere that not only blocks the sun rays from reaching Earth, it deflects them back into space. Now, this sounds really crazy. I know it does. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a fact. This is the truth. This is what your government is planning. And I can't say they're planning it behind your back because it's right here on the website, but they know. They know that 99.9% of people aren't going to bother reading through the report. Last night, I stayed up reading through this report. I fell asleep at like page 33. But by page 33, ladies and gentlemen, I found an overwhelming amount of concerning things within this report. And as of right now, I'll go so far as to say that this has to be one of, if not the most concerning things I've ever seen or read in my life. You have to think of the consequences of our government that can't seem to get anything right. Now they're going to release chemicals or substances in the air to block the sun. How could this go wrong? Look around you. Homelessness is on the rise. People are overdosing in our city streets every day. Crime is at an all-time high. And instead of our government facing and tackling those real problems, what our government is doing is trying to figure out how they could block sunlight from reaching Earth. Literally the last thing that any of us should want to happen. But they will go to any lengths necessary to just, I honestly don't know what their end game is from this. But even within this report, it listed several devastating things that could happen as a result of using SRM to manipulate our climate. For those of you all who don't know, the government has been able to control some aspects of the weather for decades. And now we know, due to this report, thank you for this report, by the way, now we know that they're manipulating the climate. That they've been able to for a while. In fact, they've been studying SRM as far back as the 80s, probably before that. But this report lets us know that they've been studying this stuff since at least 1983. It is 2023, ladies and gentlemen, and they are just now openly talking about it. But early on in the report, there is an acknowledgement that some of this may be done covertly. In fact, now they're worried that other countries around the world might be conducting their own SRM experiments And they're trying to figure out a way that they could detect SRM experiments coming from other countries. I want to go ahead and read just a quick little excerpt. The ability to detect any global or regional SRM deployments would be of value for decision making. Verifying a deployment, whether carried out covertly or openly, over the short and long term, would occur by measuring and monitoring the characteristics of the deployment while assessing the intended and unintended physical, environmental, and societal outcomes. This whole entire report has one reoccurring theme that really scares me, okay? I don't say that I'm scared often. Most stuff that I come across these days, and we talk about a lot of crazy stuff here, it doesn't faze me. This does. Because basically what they're saying here throughout this report is that they're going to measure the risk versus risk factor. That's what they're calling it, risk versus risk. They're trying to measure up what are the risks of climate change, which we all know is a bunch of mumbo jumbo propaganda. They're weighing what are the risks on humans due to climate change versus the risk of implementing SRM. Basically, they're saying that it will be left up to the government to decide what's worse for you. SRM, them releasing these chemicals and different substances into the sky to block the sun. They're trying to figure out, is that worse for you than the effects of climate change? Now, we already know the effects of climate change are pretty much nonsense, right? But the government is pushing it. They're pushing it very hard. And throughout this report, they basically state that the government's going to have to decide which risk factor is worse. And you already know what the government is going to decide. They're going to decide that climate change is way worse than implementing SRM. Therefore, whatever happens to people due to SRM, in their eyes, they're going to say it's not as bad as what would have happened to you with climate change. So basically, throughout this report, there's an acknowledgement that this will have effects on humans, that it will have effects on our weather, it will have effects on our climate, it will have effects on our crops, on our water supply. It will affect any and everything that you could possibly imagine. And basically, they're trying to weigh up the risk factors. Well, climate change would be much worse if we don't do something about climate change. It's going to be much worse than if we do something with SRM. I wish that I could find the words to properly explain what I'm trying to convey here. I hope you all understand what I'm trying to say. But long story short, the reoccurring theme is that they're saying that climate change poses all of these risks to humanity. Therefore, SRM is needed. Even though SRM poses a bunch of risks to humanity, they're saying that the risk of climate change outweighs the risk of them artificially implementing climate change, basically, because that's what SRM is. It's nothing more than a man-made attempt to change the climate. Mind you, they say they're trying to make it cooler, but that could have devastating effects on our entire world. We don't know how artificially manipulating the climate will affect human life in general. From politics to, like I said, our food and water supply, it's insane. Within this report, there's even an acknowledgement that it could affect volcanoes. We can see volcano eruptions, monsoons, and you name it, all due to the side effects of SRM, because it turns out when you cool the planet down a couple of degrees unnaturally and very quickly, it has devastating effects on the weather, which may explain some of the weather patterns that we're seeing lately. I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't confirm this for a fact, but I believe the fact that they are openly talking about this right on the White House website, that kind of lets me know that this is something they've already been doing. I don't think this is a plan that they have in the future. I think this is something that they've already been doing. But I want to read to you all a little bit more from this report. Depending on how it would be used, SRM holds the potential for a range of human impacts, from adverse to beneficial and real to perceived. Large historical volcanic eruptions can serve as natural analogs to understand the potential human impacts of SRM. In particular, stratospheric aerosol injection SAI scenarios, separately from the effects of increased atmospheric greenhouse gases, as would be the case for human deployments of SRM. The effects of volcanic eruptions and other proxies depend on the specifics of the event in question, and the outcomes of one event do not necessarily apply to others. As an example of one large event, the 1815 Tempura eruption cooled the Earth by 0.7 degrees Celsius and led to a year without summer, 1816. It altered precipitation patterns, it disrupted monsoons, and led to flooding that provoked crop failure, famine, and the outbreak of disease. Understanding these and other potential negative impacts of SRM is as important as understanding potential benefits. While limited work has been done to examine how SRM may alter precipitation patterns, net primary production, and other aspects of the physical environment, very little has been done to connect these changes to ensuing human outcomes. So right there, ladies and gentlemen, mind you, this report is over 44 pages long. It would take me a couple of hours to just read it outright for you all. Maybe I'll pick out more things and talk about them in other videos as well. But right there, there's an acknowledgement that not only could this trigger volcanic eruptions, it could trigger monsoons, it could affect rain patterns, which leads to droughts, famine, diseases. It's crazy the amount of stuff that they just list right here in this report. I'm telling you right now, I'm not telling you to be scared, but this is some scary stuff. All in the name of the climate change hoax. These freaking weirdos are getting ready to experiment upon us all. Mind you, they've already been doing experiments on us for years. But, I mean, I'm of the belief that they're already doing this. That's my opinion. Are they? Maybe not. But they've made their plans clear. It's not like they're even hiding it, which is what I've been telling people for years. A lot of this stuff that you think are conspiracies, a lot of these things that you hear that sound too crazy to be true, not only are they true, but our government is pretty open about doing this stuff because our government knows that they already have enough distractions out there that people don't care. I'm making this video right now. Most people aren't going to give a damn about anything that I say. They're not going to give a damn about anything that's in this report because they have their priorities messed up. The government is literally right on the White House website telling you all what the plans are in the future. That because climate change isn't working out the way they want it to, they're going to change the climate themselves. It says right in the report that they have not done enough research yet. It says right in the report that they already know that this could affect our weather, that it could have devastating effects on humanity. And, folks, and they even hit the woke talking points as well. This is hilarious. Let's read another excerpt. The potential risk and benefits to human health and well-being associated with scenarios involving the use of SRM need to be considered relative to risk and benefits associated with plausible trajectories of ongoing climate change not involving SRM. This risk versus risk framing, along with cultural, moral, and ethical considerations, would contribute to the necessary context in which policymakers can consider the potential suitability of SRM as a component of climate policy. I want to pause right there. Like I was telling you at the beginning of this video, this is the reoccurring theme. Risk versus risk. Basically, they're saying that if policymakers, if politicians decide that the risk of SRM isn't as bad as the potential risk of climate change, not even the risk of climate change, the potential risk. We know that the climate cult weirdos have been saying that the earth is going to be destroyed by climate change for years. Okay? The world was supposed to have already ended like 40 times if we were to listen to Al Gore and Greta Thunberg. We're still here, people. At the time of this recording, I'm still here. You're still here. Hopefully climate change doesn't blow up the earth by the time I upload this video. But you got to understand, the potential risk of climate change, there's no real scientific evidence that they use to back up the potential risk. It's just a bunch of weirdos sitting around a table coming up with theories about what may happen. And we're supposed to trust them to decide if SRM is necessary. Oh, the potential risk of climate change, the potential risks are so bad. They're so bad that we need to release chemicals in the sky right now that we know will have devastating effects on humanity, but we don't care because the potential risk of climate change would be much worse. That's basically what they're saying. But like I was telling you all, they even hit their woke talking points. Listen to this. Decisions concerning whether and how to deploy SRM should be based upon an understanding of the risk and benefits to human health and well-being of its implementation relative to those anticipated under the current climate trajectory. Of particular importance is consideration of potential jeopardy to diverse communities and intergenerational equity. Oh, the most important thing they have to worry about when implementing SRM is the effects that it will have on diverse communities. My diversity, my diversity. Think about that, folks. Think about that. In other words, we don't really care how SRM is going to affect white people. We need to make sure that it doesn't negatively affect diverse communities. Where do you think they're going to be implementing SRM? More than likely, it's going to be in diverse communities. I doubt it's going to be in Malibu. I doubt Hollywood elites are worried about SRM. Who do you think is really going to be affected? It's more than likely going to be all of us. All of us middle class, lower class people, we're going to be the ones affected. While the rich elites sit there and party, live their life up, they're going to go out there on the beach, get a nice tan. Meanwhile, the sunlight's literally going to be blocked from coming to us. And you know that's going to have devastating effects on people's health. You need the sun. Think about this as well. They're implementing all of these new, how can I put this? Like you got the electric cars, you got solar panels, solar wind turbines. They're trying to basically replace a lot of the ways that we get our energy with getting energy from the sun. But what are your solar panels going to do for you when they start blocking out solar rays from reaching your solar panels? It's almost as if it was all by design, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact that they had to implement the woke talking points in there, that lets you know how idiotic, how stupid, and how insane these people are. First, when studying the effects of SRM, we must make sure it doesn't affect diverse communities. Never mind the fact that you literally stated in this same report that, yeah, it may cause volcanic eruptions, crazy monsoon seasons. Yeah, you may have droughts and famine and all of this other stuff, but hey, we got to make sure we take care of those diverse communities, right? They hit all the woke talking points. They laid out this plan within this report. And I'm just going over the tip of the iceberg. It was late last night. I was reading through this report, and these are just some of the things that, I wanted to touch upon. There's a lot more within this report. It's 44 pages long. I read to you all not even 2 or 3 paragraphs of this report. And already we heard that it could affect our weather, famine, diversity. We've heard all of the talking points that should get us worried, right? Let me know your thoughts about this, though, down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and listen. I suggest that you become familiar with SRM today, because you don't got time to wait. If this plan is already up on the White House website, I don't know what to tell you. But I'll talk to you all in the next video.